Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, former installation contractor and boutique store owner, now bringing you content that helps you go from owning a job to owning a business every week so that you can get a lifestyle lift, be more profitable, have more free time, and actually accomplish the things in your business that you wanted it for. Because I know you're like me. And while you thought being a business owner would bring you all of the free time in the world, you found out that you're wearing way too many hats and you have way less free time because you're now doing more than just the making of widgets or installation of some material in your field. So this week we've got Justin Shaw of Driven for Growth joining us again, and we are going to be talking about how to market your business through different stages. And so he breaks it down as you are a startup, and then you're in survival mode, you are then in successful mode, then you go to scaling, and then you are at sustainable. And so there's a different way to approach how to drive leads to your business at each of these different stages of business. We're going to break those down, go over different ways that you can create leads, and at some point you have to get past the referral stage. I know people pride themselves on, everything for my business is referrals. Referrals are the best form of business. I agree. Depending on the size of business you want to be at, referrals are not everything. A business doing $1 million, $2 million plus a year isn't going to survive on referrals alone, in my opinion. I just don't see that as possible. There's going to have to be something else out there, whether it's Google or Facebook or Instagram ads. There's going to have to be some other kind of lead generation going on to draw people in. We're going to get into all of that in a minute. I want to thank you for tuning in. And don't forget to check out Floor Academy Pod. Go to the Mastermind tab. And if you truly want to grow your business, then click on that and learn about how we take 5 business owners, throw them into a group. We meet every other week. We are goal focused and oriented. So you're setting goals of where you want your business to be. We're meeting and we're talking about them with other business owners. And so you're getting their insights of how they got through that stage of business, or how they accomplished it, or what their thoughts are of where you're at. If you're having struggles, we can, vent about them with people that actually are going through it with you in a like business. And of course you get the accountability, because you start feeling really foolish when you tell people, I'm going to go accomplish this, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And then you show up 2 weeks later and you say, I got sidetracked and I didn't do anything. So plenty of benefits in it. Again, make sure to check out Floor Academy Pod/mastermind to learn more. We've got a quick word from a couple of sponsors, and then we'll have Justin introduce himself. If you're struggling to keep your schedule, forgetting to follow up with clients, or your books are behind, Cronus Flooring Business Manager has the solutions you are looking for. Streamline your life, gain more freedom, and maintain control of your business. From scheduling to follow-up reminders, integration with QuickBooks, and producing quotes quickly, you can say goodbye to your business headaches. Visit cronussoft.com/academy today to schedule your demo for this all-in-one approach for flooring business organization. Cronus, fast relief for your flooring business headaches. And attention flooring professionals, elevate your craftsmanship with the finest tools and supplies from tiletools.com. From spacers to saws, we have everything you need for flawless tile installations. Plus, we offer top-notch customer service and fast shipping. As a special offer for Floor Academy listeners, use the code FA10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next order. Don't settle for less. Visit tiletools.com today and experience the difference in quality and service that professionals trust. All right, that is enough out of me. Justin, welcome back. Let's do the standard thing. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And then we will dive into these stages of business and how to market at each of these stages.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for having me back on, man. Last minute one to talk and jam on a topic that seemed to be top of mind for a lot of people in your group.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a program, flagship program called the 90-Day Growth Engine. And that essentially has been a culmination of 7 years working with Stone Pros, Surface Pros. We
Hmm.
started in Stone, that's where that came from. Then expanded it because that was our introduction into the surfaces industry. And then was working with companies that do millwork, flooring, et cetera, tile. And a lot of the stuff that we'll talk about today is through supporting companies as an agency, as well as providing consulting. So we were in the trenches doing their marketing for the better part of 7 years. Now, what we've done in our program is essentially provided turnkey proven strategies and playbooks that companies can go ahead and implement on their own. So when they join
Okay.
our program, they can often have even a front desk staff person or admin go in and follow paint by numbers how to run something like meta ads to generate leads, because sometimes if you're paying a marketing company like we used to you know be compensated, a large part of what could have been your ad budget goes out the door.
Yeah.
And so when you have ownership over it, you seem to members seem to take the leads more seriously because they've gone out and helped to generate them. And also they're often able to take, what would have gone out the door, $2,500, for example, for a marketing company, if they're running Google, Facebook, and another channel, and put that into acquiring more market
Yeah.
share and leads. So yeah, that's a short intro that's relevant to today's topic.
Okay. No, I appreciate. I know a lot of marketing companies. If you give them a $5,000 a month ad spend, it'll be a 50-50 split of we take 2,500 to manage the ad spend for the month, and you're only getting 2,500 in ad spend, and that's just it's crazy. So yeah, you're spending a lot of money, but if only half the money is going out the door is actually generating leads, what do that's a lot left on the table that you're paying for. So if you being able to take that back and make that money go further to generate even more leads seems like a much better way to do this. Oh, we may have lost Justin. Hold on. He is at least frozen on my end. So we are gonna give it a minute here, and we will see what happens. I'll try and fill some time here with you all while we give it a second. And I think that there's a lot that happens, right? We go out on our own, and he's back. Okay, I don't have to fill
That
time
was
anymore. You're good.
that was weird.
Yeah. Well, things happen. It's technology. We're making it work.
Cool.
So I think it's awesome that you're empowering people to let their ad spend go further by giving them the tools to actually understand the stuff, because I know that even opening up like Facebook Business Suite is I don't even want to learn it. It just looks overwhelming because there's 8,000 different tabs and questions. And again, so we must be okay, and you're back again.
I just shut off my camera to see if it's a bandwidth thing. I have my internet's good, everything's good. So I'm not sure there's a bug in the machine today for us, but we'll do our
Apparently.
best. Sorry
Okay.
about that, man.
No, you're good. Did you hear anything I said?
Not at that time, no.
Okay. So I think I think it's awesome that you're giving people the power to do this on their own, make their ad spend go further. And you open up Facebook Business Suite or Manager or whatever it is, and there's 800 tabs and 20 different bells
Yeah.
and whistles to click. Like, it's just overwhelming to even look at and try
So
and
many
understand. It's stuff is hidden inside of this menu that's inside of this menu and so the fact that you're like breaking it down, you've done some of the legwork, and you're able to say like, okay, hey, to recreate this campaign, go through these steps, and then you can make
Exactly.
your budget go further. That's awesome.
Yeah, budget to go further. And I think if you want to have control, like if somebody is looking to exit their business eventually, ideally they built the mechanisms to be able to have a consistent pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having that in-house is important versus just outsourcing it. If that marketing company decides to, change their model, or, you're really real, then
Mm-hmm.
you're a bit vulnerable. So I think it's good to always have control over those things
There's probably
as
more
well.
accountability too. I think that's the biggest thing that people are lacking is I'm going to hire a marketing company. Okay, well, I paid you money. You're not generating me leads. How many times did you follow up and ask them what they were doing? How many times did you have the conversation
Right.
about what your expectations actually were? How many times did you have the conversation about, you know, how are they crafting advertisements or marketing that's actually geared towards the people you want to reach? Oh, you didn't do any of that?
Totally.
Okay, well, you did throw your money away. Like, that's on you. That's not on them. They're not bad at their job. You're bad at developing a plan with them. Now, should they have asked and tried to do that with you? Sure. But, they're probably overbooked as it is. So they're not going to. They're just going to take your money. So I think they're definitely, I like that you're giving it to them, keeping it in house. There's going to be more accountability. They're going to be able to develop the content they want to put out a lot better and have it be more meaningful to the company that's actually doing it. Because no two companies are alike.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of dive into this. So marketing through whatever stage of business you're at, and all of us generally, I don't know too many people that start a company and aren't in the startup stage. I think even when a company is funded by somebody that's sold another company off and that, they have a couple million and they can hire a bunch of employees at once to really like get it going a lot quicker. You're still a startup. You're still trying to figure out a bunch of struggles you just, different size, different problems, but you still got to make sure you're getting to where you can pay the bills. So what are we doing as a startup to even start generating leads better than having business cards and leaving them everywhere we go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that fundamentally, before we get into like tactics
Mm-hmm.
or channels, which can also be debatable because it's, we're going to be able to advise on some best practices, but every market's different. No two shops are the same. So just keep that in mind as we go through these things. But number one, and so if somebody's listening to this and they're in the successful stage but haven't done this, they should still go back and do this, is focusing on that competitive advantage. I think we jammed on that a little bit in our last session that we did together.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really going to unlock the potential of your efforts, whether that's wrapping your van, whether that's doing Google pay-per-click, whether that's doing Facebook, whatever it is, having a competitive advantage where you're truly differentiated from the competition, you've planted your flag, that would come first. And then
Okay.
having a compelling offer. So that's something that gets skipped. And obviously over time you can have multiple offers, different seasonal offers and promotions, but that's something that's also often skipped. Like, okay, well, I've got $1,000. Let me go do something on PPC, or, somebody told me Instagram ads. Let me go do that.
Yeah.
But without a competitive advantage, clear positioning in the market, who you serve and how you serve them better than anybody else, and then a solid offer that you can put into the marketplace, those ads are not going to perform as well as you'd want them to. Or your yard signs or your mailers.
Mm-hmm.
If you're knocking on doors and handing out a brochure, it's not going to move the needle as much as it could and get you the biggest bang for your buck if you don't have those two things. So that's the first place I would start. Because then those two things are translated, number one, to your website.
Okay.
And then all the different touch points from there, your business cards, your website, your leave behind, or if somebody comes to the showroom, what you're giving them, what people say when they answer the phone, right? So simple things like that. So that just sort of is the very fundamental sort of keystone.
I think that's great advice. There's definitely, for my owner operators out there that are running installation companies, whether you're carpet, tile, hardwood, whatever you're doing, remember this. And we've talked about it. You're not an installer. If you're running a company, you are no longer just an installer. And so you don't sell installations. You're running a business that solves problems. And that's exactly what Justin's talking about when he's telling you to come up with like, what's your competitive advantage, right? Are you offering the best installations? Are you offering a certain type of installation that's going to, what kind of, it's going to sound really dumb, and I'm not super like duper into gimmicks, but that's exactly what you're looking to create is like, what's your gimmick to set you apart from everybody else? Everyone's offering installations. What makes you have the oranges to everybody else's apples, so that there's actually something that sets you apart from everyone else, right? We had, I can't think of his name. He's with Wolf now. Danny Sherman. We had Danny Sherman on, and he ran Meg's installations, and it was technically it was Meg certified installations, and so him being able to offer that every single one of the guys that worked for his company was a certified installer, and you got a certified installation. That's different. Everyone else is offering installations. Well, what's a certified installation? So, coming up
Right.
with something like that is going to help separate you from the pack and make you stand out. So I think that's great advice.
Totally. So yeah, that start with that. And then if we're getting tactical, which we're going to do, we're going to get deep on a number of things. So you're in the startup phase and you're looking at then how to move from relying on referrals and word of mouth. And as you said at the top of the show, the thing that I really want people to make a shift from, if this is what they think, and I still consistently see this in all of the groups and forums when people are asking for recommendations, and somebody chimes in and says, just do great work and everything else will take care of itself. Some have been blessed enough where that's true. And you can't discount that person's experience. That's been true for them. They're extremely lucky. And that's
Yeah.
awesome. But you may not be so fortunate, and more than likely you won't be. And then also it's really hard to scale that business or exit that business and sell it. But
I don't discount that what they say is true, but I call bullshit
mm,
because there's other things going on that they just don't recognize. They are probably
right.
making some kind of a compelling offer, like you mentioned. They're probably they have some kind of business differential that somebody else isn't offering. Right? Yeah, just do good work and be kind to people, but there's something happening in those interactions that's making these
Yeah.
people
Oh,
want to refer them, and that's like
for sure,
they
for
don't
sure.
recognize it, but
Right.
if
That
somebody
they've
analyzed
built
their
a
business, like you would be able to figure out what it was.
they've built a referral machine, a referral mechanism. But
Yeah.
I do think like I'm about to go into tactical side of things, but I think it's good for us to set the table, kind of dispel some of these myths you could say, or the advice that some give that could mislead some people. And it's a bit tough because you'll see somebody, sharing their success that they're at 2 million. They've never done any marketing. You've probably seen those comments
Oh
too.
yeah.
And they're like, you don't need to. And that person that's looking for advice is like, okay, maybe I don't. Right. And I would say that there are some markets that are just hot there. And for a very long time, there are some that are perpetually strong. And maybe that won't go on until forever and ever. Right. But that could be for a decade. Others not so much. And so you really need to focus on your own business, your own market. Every market's different. And other companies often will have a strong brand. It's taken them a long time to get there, but a strong brand in a local market can go a
Yeah.
long way. Where they're not running pay-per-click ads, they're not doing Facebook, they're not doing direct mail. They've built up enough of um, brand awareness and affinity for that brand that referral engine is just always in place for them. But that I would say is the exception. So when we want to get tactical with somebody in the startup phase, that would be the first thing to build is a referral engine. And so that's the two things I would focus on before you start spending on anything is a referral engine so that you're not only capturing, you're not only capturing reviews on your Google My Business listing for
Hmm.
installs you've done. If you're just starting out, there's an overlooked opportunity to get referrals from people that you did a home, you did your in-home consult measurement, you gave some advice, maybe you didn't get the job,
Yeah.
but you left them with a really positive experience. You can still follow up if you're just starting out to get reviews because your Google My Business profile or your GMB listing, as it used to be called, is one of the most important assets that you'll want to build up. And what Google's factoring in is relevancy and then authority and then proximity. So if we take the
Yeah.
top three things that it's factoring in, you're not going to get somebody that's 40 miles out because of proximity. So you're looking to compete within your local market. You ideally want to get in the top three. It's called the local three pack because that's where the majority, the lion's share of traffic is going to go to one of those shops in the
Okay.
top three. And so relevancy is done through some technical things, but one of the biggest things is what is your business called? So if you're in the very startup stage, and I saw a post recently of somebody looking to rebrand, or you're going to pick your name, picking
Hmm.
something with the relevant keywords in it is a big factor. So if you want a really cool name and you're going to omit the word flooring, that's going to hurt you. So
Yeah.
that can be overlooked, though, right? It really can be, and you're going to have a harder time competing.
It can. I
Um,
mean, if you wanted to be Tom's Installations and everyone's looking for flooring, Tom's Installations isn't going to necessarily come up, right? Like, yes, your
exactly.
website mentions that you do flooring installations, but it's
Yep.
missing in the action. You could do Tom's flooring installations, and then you can just call it Tom's Installations to everybody in person.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's good. Is making sure that it's
Mhm.
what you're doing is in the title somewhere.
Yeah, title and this advice we're giving, do your own research. We don't want to have somebody pointing the finger at us later, say this happened to me, but as to the best of my knowledge, Google right now does not penalize you from now adding a keyword into your title. It's just you're going to have competitors that will
Mm-hmm.
go and report it. Then you'll have to change it. It's about, you could also go through the process of having a DBA and filing the right paperwork if you are Tom's Installation to then put flooring in the name.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge factor, though. So if we're talking about this for more than 5 minutes, it's because it's massive. So relevancy. And then there's, go to YouTube University to go down the rabbit hole of ranking in the local three pack
Mm-hmm.
and go through the best practices of citations and making sure that your name, phone number, address are matching on the various top directories. So if you Google, flooring company, blah, 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 what you would search for yourself, see what comes up. You want to be on those websites with the proper name, phone number, address. Those things are still relevant. And also your category for your store, like pick that properly. Some people don't. And so relevancy is really key. And
Okay.
then authority. So authority is on the reviews that you're looking to build. And it's surprising how often that's overlooked. Like they'll get a handful and then sort of stop that. And that should be one of the primary focuses. So that would
For
be
sure.
next, which
Okay.
is, a lot of just asking. But and then the second thing I would recommend, which we're not getting really into marketing tactics except for optimizing your GMB, is leveraging a CRM. That this topic of conversation is not to be like which is the right one,
Yeah.
but you're focused on your sales process and a CRM to manage and nurture leads. Because you'd be putting the cart before the horse if you go spend money on anything and your sales process isn't dialed in and you don't have a proper system in place to manage those leads. So those are just some of the fundamental things to get into place before you get really excited to spend that $1,500 on the channel that we'll talk about, in a moment. So get
Yeah.
those best practices in place so that you're getting as much of a return on investment when you start spending money
Well, and I think
or time and energy. If you're knocking on doors, even that's
yeah, at that startup phase, I think having a CRM is going to be super valuable to anybody because I know that I didn't want to chase leads. So if you didn't answer me within 2 weeks, then that email was getting deleted out of my inbox because I didn't want it cluttering it up. I like to have a really clean inbox. And you went away and I forgot about you. I wasn't going to follow up anymore. I wasn't going to do anything. And so a CRM can automatically follow up with these people. You can build you can go back a couple episodes and with Chris Freight, we talked about developing a drip campaign. And so you could develop a drip campaign and put
exactly.
them in that and keep them, this is all stuff that's, yes, it costs you time, but that's generally what you have in the startup phase is you don't have any money and you have a lot of free time. So invest your time in building resources that are going to help you nurture the leads and keep them active and in front of you. And you can present them with offers. You can educate them on what makes you different as a business
Mhm.
owner and how your services are different from everybody else's. And maybe they're not ready because while we all love people that are ready now and we want them to buy now, a lot of people could be contacting you at the beginning of this journey, and it may be 9 months before they're ready to buy. And
Mhm.
it happens all the time. They'll get bids right away a month into research, and 8 months later down the road when they're ready to buy, they don't remember who they talked to. They pick up the phone, they get a new quote, and they go immediately with that company. And if you have that drip
Now that they're
campaign,
ready. Yeah.
you've been following up with them for 8 months and they actually remember who you are.
Absolutely, providing more value. So I think that's, yeah, the big one there is you're really making sure that you've got your conversions dialed in, because then when we're talking about marketing tactics to add more leads, you want to be converting at the highest rate possible. So the CRM will help with that, obviously. Um,
Okay.
And there's a lot that it can do. If you're going to take a look at a CRM, think for the long term. You want one that is, you know, the right fit for where you want your business to be 3 to 5 years down the road, because switching CRMs is a pain in the butt. So that's just something to mention.
Well, I think that's good advice in general, right? It's not just about your CRM. Don't build your
Yeah.
business for where you're at now. Build your business for where you're going. And
Yes,
that's going to
totally.
keep you in a different mindset, and it's going to keep you focused on making sure you have you're implementing the right things, and you're starting them early. If you know that you want to have employees eventually, don't wait until you hire an employee to have an employee handbook. Develop the employee handbook now, develop the job descriptions now, and then when you go to hire someone, they're already in place and ready to go, and you're not behind the eight ball and feel even more pressure. So develop for where you want to go. Great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. So then in the startup phase, I mean, that moves very quickly to the survival phase, right? Like,
Hmm.
so startup, you could still add in channels, and there isn't necessarily one that I would say is the obvious go-to every single time when you're going to spend money. And that's what makes the conversation a little bit complicated, as it was, in the group when those questions are posed. Well, I'm at quarter of a million.
Yeah.
Where should I spend my money? Because some could make the argument for pay-per-click because they've had success with it. Others could make the case of Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram,
Hmm.
right? Door hangers and then all the way down the line, right? So I'm of the mindset that every channel works. It does. And but it's a matter of having the competitive advantage, compelling offers, but then sticking with it long enough to see success on the other side, and not, giving something 60 days and being like, ah, man, it didn't work for
Hmm.
me, jumping to the next shiny object, shining the next one, overall just feeling like you wasted a ton of money, being jaded, which I see happening a
Oh yeah.
lot, and then being like, Facebook didn't work for me, I'm never touching that again, or the lead sucked. Well, did you have a good offer? Was the ad account structured properly, and all these different things. So
Yes.
that's something, to note there. If and so to talk about like which channel would be right for somebody, it would depend on the budget. So the budget for me would dictate which channel you select.
Okay.
A smaller budget, it's going to be hard to play in Google pay-per-click, because you're going to pay a fair amount per lead, and you're going to pay a fair amount per sale, like actual cost per acquisition of customer.
Hmm.
So if you've got a budget sub $1,000, it's going to be tricky to generate the volume of leads that's really going to move the needle in a meaningful way to then make that a viable channel for you. Whereas if you take $1,000 and you put that into Meta, and you set things up properly, and you're running ads on Facebook and Instagram, that is the lowest cost per impression platform still to this day.
Okay.
And so depending what types of campaigns you're running, you can get a, a rather large bang for your buck, you can say, with $1,000. And we can get a little more tactical from there, but I'll
Okay.
pause there, see if you have any thoughts
No,
on that.
so I think there's even before that, right? Like, I think people immediately want to spend money, and they're like, I want to generate leads. I want to generate leads. One of the best things I saw was I'm all about, you know, generally in flooring, showers, stuff like that. We can have smaller projects. We can turn them over in a week, maybe 2 weeks at the most. And so in a 90-day period, you can move through stuff. And so in this phase, like if I was going to go and recreate this, I had an A-frame sign that I put in front of houses that I was out while I was working on them,
Oh yeah,
but
of
nothing
course.
stayed behind. And when you go and you look at like roofers and window companies, so I had the windows replaced on my father's house, and we had to keep the yard, like part of the contract was keeping the yard sign in the yard for 60 days, which was okay. Like if that's what it is, that was part of the deal. We got all that stuff, right? But it was out there 60 days for the neighbors to see. So you can do the same thing, build it into your contract, get some yard
Oh,
signs. A
yes,
bunch of
yes,
yard signs are going to be a couple $100, and then over 90 days, if you're at
yes.
10 houses, 12 houses, you're in 12 different neighborhoods still, even after the fact. Okay. My buddy's company that does demo only, they started wrapping everything, and all of a sudden, I think they had 3 vehicles wrapped, and it was like his vehicle, his wife's vehicle, and then the work truck. But all of a sudden, everybody started saying, I see you everywhere. He wasn't
Yeah, yeah,
everywhere. He was
totally.
in 3 places. But
Yeah,
I've talked to other companies that do the same thing and they get the same reaction. It's like 3, 4 vehicles, and all of a
absolutely.
sudden everyone's like, I see you everywhere. So now there's like brand awareness because everyone starts spotting your vehicles everywhere. And so these, like, a vehicle wrap isn't necessarily cheap, but if I was looking at what's it going to bring me over the next 1 to 5 years, the amount of business it could generate, the amount of awareness it's going to generate, I would be looking at that before I got into Facebook, Google,
Yeah,
all of that
yeah, yeah.
stuff. And so I think, being able to come up with some yard signs, some pamphlets that you drop off at the houses to the left and the right. Like, if you go 3 houses to the
Exactly.
left, 3 houses to the right, and then the 7 houses across the street, you're 13, 14 flyers or so and a yard sign. And then the trailer's wrapped and out front every day. The yard sign stays once the trailer's gone. You're pulling in and out with the wrapped truck every day, on the way there. Like, there's a lot of awareness that you can generate at a far lower value
Oh
or
yeah,
cost,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so
And a higher ROI. Yeah, my
I
bad.
think
I
so,
think I
long term.
skipped some of the things
No,
to
I
because I
don't.
think
I
that this
just
gets talked about a lot, and I thought, for sure, let's not dismiss and overlook those fundamental business assets and
I
the low
think,
hanging fruit.
yeah, it's definitely, it's on the cheaper side, but I think the ROI long term is really high on those things, and they're very often overlooked. People forget about it, right? They're like, oh, shirts. I don't care. I think everybody wants to put phone numbers on their shirts, and I did, and then I realized, like, who cares? It's the name awareness. I just need you to see the
Mhm.
name and know the name, right? So let's develop a really nice looking shirt that's super clean with it, with the name on it and the logo, and that's all I care about. If we have Google, folks, like, all we got to do is type in what we know and it shows up. So if you're doing everything else right, then they're gonna be like this company, and they're gonna know where to find you. So you can use the other space to put an offer, a message, a slogan, something that's gonna get people to remember you. In my opinion, forget the phone number, forget the website. That's all. It should be easy enough to find in this day and age, for sure, right? This isn't about having to dig through the phone book and find that there's 15 AAA floors in town.
Totally, yeah. Clarity number one. Packing in some of that smaller information is people aren't going to remember it as it is. Yeah, definitely. I like that you brought it back for a second. I think I was jumping in because I know that some of the conversations in the group
Mm-hmm.
are around more on the digital, more advanced side of things. But yes, in the startup phase, before we move to any of that stuff, or even in the survival stage, if you haven't done those things, or if you're even in a higher stage and haven't done those things,
Mm-hmm.
I think the low hanging fruit something to be focused on, but then not forgotten later. There's always unique things that you can do when you're already in a home, when you've already done a project. And I think now with all the things you've covered, wraps, yard signs, hitting that radius, afterwards and getting the brochures out or the flyers out. Now we're in the social and digital age, and I think low hanging fruit can be things like post install, taking some solid video just with an iPhone, as you were mentioning, talking about your iPhone 13.
Mm-hmm.
That is, revolutionary still technology, right? That has like an amazing camera in it. So to be able to take some solid pictures when everything's fresh, and there's not stuff littered all over the living room, it'll never look as fresh as like when
Yes.
everything's done, right? Taking a little bit of video, a little bit of images, and actually providing these assets to the homeowner later, right? Package it up for them. Even, it depends on the resources available. But if you want to take it far enough to give them something, that the ideal is that they post it, right? And they post it, they'll give you a shout out, they'll tag you, and it is getting out to their network as well at
Oh,
no
man.
cost other than a little
I
bit of
never
time,
thought
right?
about that. Like, I'm taking the before and after pictures for me and I'm using them to advertise, but giving them to the client and getting them to advertise
Mm,
for me, that's okay. That I love.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Because yeah, most people do take those pictures, but then they're just on their Instagram. Maybe they'll tag the homeowner. Usually they'll tag a designer, but not the homeowner,
Mm-hmm.
which is understandable. In some cases, people don't necessarily want to be tagged. But yeah, packaging them up some really great assets is really good. And I think on bigger projects, getting in even, you can always find somebody that's starting off in their photography career that wants to do like real estate photography, very competitive, but they want to get some
Mm-hmm.
great shots. Partner with somebody like that, where you can do a trade, for example, on larger projects to get some killer photos. And that'll go a long way, both to use on your website, but then also when that homeowner's just super, really thrilled, really proud, wants to show it off,
Yeah,
they're going to share those all over the place. So
definitely. I'm gonna interrupt us here for just a second, and then we'll dive back in and keep working our way through these different stages and what we can do. The rumors are true. GoBoard Pro is available and approved for steam showers. GoBoard Pro was developed with the pro contractor's ease of project workflow in mind. Panel sized at 4 feet by 64 inches will limit waste on your project. They'll require less seams, meaning less sealant is needed. And best of all, you can space those beautiful blue GoBoard fasteners out to 12 inches without requiring washers. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for all the product details. Schluter Systems is all about providing products and systems that ensure durable, functional, and beautiful tile installations. With an emphasis on education through their nationwide workshop program for professionals, the goal of the company is to offer innovative solutions to the tile industry that solve common challenges faced by installers. Their product line includes over 6,000 items, including tile trims, uncoupling membranes, floor heating systems, waterproof building panels, shower systems, and thin-set mortars. For more information or to register for a workshop, visit schluter.com. All the links to the companies are in the show notes, so make sure you go in there, click on them, go visit them, and let them know that you heard about them over on the show. Justin, we're back. I think we're kind of past that startup stage. We're in that survival stage and developing what we're, here's the basic needs of what we're doing, and then maybe towards the end of that survival stage and into the where are we at? We're not scaling, we're sustainable. What comes after survival?
we're kind of just, yeah, we kind of jumped around a little between startup and survival and ended up back in startup, which is good to go over those things that are often overlooked. But in survival stage, that's where a lot of companies are, even if they maybe don't initially realize it and
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't label that until it's sort of defined. Um, and so I would define that as where you find yourself at the whims of, or you could, if you're relying on referrals and word of mouth, and you're at the whims of market conditions, seasonality, and you find yourself on that roller coaster of revenue, um, then you're in survival stage. And in order to get to the successful stage, you really want to have predictability and consistency. And so
Mm-hmm.
what you should look for marketing to provide is a reasonable degree of control over consistently filling your pipeline and your production schedule, or your calendar, just the jobs you're going to have,
Mm-hmm.
and having a reasonable degree of control. And that's where paid really comes in, because you want to be able to input a dollar, right,
Yep.
and get an outsized return. And if you're going to move to successful in scaling, you have to be able to then take a percentage of that outsized return, reinvest it to scale your ability to acquire more market share, acquire more
Yeah.
leads, right, and scale it up, which is hard to do without a mechanism like that.
Yeah. Truly good marketing should be very predictable. If you're tracking everything, you're running the business the way it should, then yes, you want that water faucet to be able to be turned it on, right? I put $10,000 in, I know that I'm going to get $200,000 out, and it takes 30 to 45 days to generate that based on the amount of money I put in. And then so if I know that happens at 10,000, what happens when I put 20,000 in? And
Mhm.
what happens if I only put 5, right? You can start seeing everything. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost. They're like, oh, I'll just throw $1,000, and then they expect the world. And it's like, well, no, you need to track what you're getting for that. And that's the difference, is right. Knowing to keep it consistent, to have that consistent business that you're talking about, is how much you need to figure out how much you need to constantly feed into the system in order to get the return you're looking for, and managing, changing the story or where it's at, the times of day, the type of people you're reaching. You're dialing all those things in to get it as effective as possible, so that you know every 30 days, if I put $1,000 in, I'm generating, $50,000 in work.
That would be massive, a massive return
It would.
on
It's probably
$1,000.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
probably not more than 10x on most stuff, but yes, I'm just throwing numbers out there, folks. Don't
Yeah,
assume
yeah,
you're going to
totally.
get a 50x return.
That'd be crazy. But yeah, definitely. I think that's good advice in between the survival and successful stage when dealing with smaller budgets. I would the one thing I would say is don't well on both sides of the spectrum. That $1,000 is going to get you actually very little
Hmm.
in return. Um, but that shouldn't mean you don't start. And so it's good to look at it like, okay, I'm building an asset, whether that's on Google, whether that's on Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. The asset that you're building is one, data, right? And testing your market positioning and the offers. Is the market going to respond to this? It's different if you're obviously, as we talked about with referrals, when those come in, those are some of the easiest deals to close. But when you're going to a cold audience, what are they
Hmm.
going to respond to? So that $1,000 should be looked at really as number one, testing. Number two, of course, as a byproduct, you're going to get brand awareness. But number three, and I'm not ranking these in hierarchy of importance, is number three is you're building a data set. So on Meta, they've now called it a data set.
Okay.
That's like your Facebook pixel is what most people know that as. On Google, you're also building the ability to retarget traffic. I would say if you're just starting out, Meta would be where you'd want to go, Facebook and Instagram, because again, you can get lowest cost per impression. And the discussion really becomes if you only have $1,000 or even less or
Hmm.
1,500 bucks, the next thing to kind of have an awareness over is, well, what's your objective? What are you looking to get from that budget? And so some people are looking to get, okay, I'm going to run lead generation campaigns. And if you have a smaller than $1,000 budget,
Oh, I'm going to guess that it may not be worth it, but we will. I apologize for all of the technical difficulties, folks. We are struggling today apparently, and so we are going to see if we can get Justin back. I think, you know, you got to choose when to dive in. You want to make sure that, do you actually have the money to consistently throw at this? If you've got extra money one month and you've got a couple $100 to throw at it, and you do it, and then the next month you don't, it's not going to produce a lot of results for you. And so you're going to want to make sure that you can consistently dedicate an amount of money month after month after month, instead of saying, "Oh, I ran something this month and then I don't have anything." Justin is back, and so we lost you at, if you have under 1,000. It's all good, man. We are working through the technical difficulties, and you froze again. So I'm gonna just keep carrying this thing, and hopefully he will come back again. But yeah, I think that, if you can save up $1,000 and then say that you want to start with a $200 a month cap, that'll give you 5 months worth of advertising and give you 5 months to be able to save up more money to be able to keep it going. So Justin is back yet again. We'll see if he doesn't freeze. we are we are working through this one. The
when
technology is
that
not our friend. You were
when
saying,
Zoom pops up with satisfaction on the Zoom call, it's going to be a zero when I hit that button after. I don't know what's up.
maybe
Um,
it's on my end, but you were saying if you have a budget under $1,000,
yeah, that
and then
doesn't
we
mean
lost you.
you shouldn't look to not jump in. You just have to optimize for the right conversion objective is what it's called.
Okay.
So, and we're talking more about Meta because I'm recommending that over Google
Hmm.
pay-per-click. For those really small budgets, you're not going to get very far. And the thing to think about is you're working within a bidding system. So whether it's Google pay-per-click or Facebook, it's a bidding system. So you're in competition with others. And so if you have a small budget, you're bidding against somebody else for the what they're willing to pay for a lead,
Hmm.
right? But there is another opportunity there, and that is the fact that you can pay a fraction of a penny for a video view. and start to build your brand awareness, start to build up that pixel. So that's something that businesses, when they're in the startup phase and early days, survival phase, that's overlooked. If you're a year away from running some solid lead generation campaigns, but you've built an audience in your what's called your metapixel
Mm-hmm.
for 12 months, you're going to have so much data to then that Facebook, essentially Meta, can leverage to find the right audience for your offer, to be able to then generate better leads. I'm just trying to simplify this as much as
Yeah.
possible. So I think that's what's often overlooked and the thread in the Floor Academy group where you were asking people what they'd want to talk about. Some of the suggestions that were in there, not throwing stones at the suggestions. I think it's just there's more to it than that. Is in early days, everybody knows they have to post on social and they end up on the hamster wheel, posting, posting, posting.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't feel like they're getting a solid return for that, of all the time of taking videos and posting them on Instagram and Facebook. But the big opportunity there is to put some paid ads behind that. And what I will say as a disclaimer is that's not boosting a post in Instagram. Don't go into your account and press the friendly blue button to boost it. That's like donating to the Zuckerberg fund. You should just take that money, and just go out for a nice dinner. Because it's like they've made it for that, with very, very limited capabilities and features, just so that you can feel like you're playing the game. And on the other side of things, don't run ads simply just from your Facebook business page or business suite. So even though it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt, you want to go through best practices and set up a Meta business portfolio, a Facebook business manager, and an ad account, Facebook ad account. And so that's a different structure there because that pixel doesn't exist anywhere else.
Okay.
So to be able to own the data of who's seeing your ads, being able to retarget them, be able to build custom audiences and all these things that later on are much more advanced. But that's where the gold lies, to be able to find that 1% match to your customers in the last 5 years will get you to be able to, really nail that bullseye when you go to put out an ad later.
So
that's something that you're looking at investing, that early budget investing in that.
So you keep saying metapixel, and I think I have a decent idea, especially based off of what you said, but I think it's probably going over a lot of people's heads. And so essentially, I think most people at this stage understand what a cookie is on their system, right? You go to the website, it's got the pop-up, you got to hit accept, and it's putting a file on your computer that gives the website data about what other websites you visit, how long you stay on their pages, what pages you're looking at, what you're clicking on. It's all the tracking information. And so what Justin's talking about is Facebook's essentially doing the same thing, right? There's a pixel that tracks and it's keeping hold of all the data. And then you're going to be able to go back in and find out who's clicking on my videos. Is it 30-year-old women? Is it 60-year-old women? Is it 40-year-old guys? Are they into fishing, right? Like Facebook has so much information on us. I don't even want to know what they have on me. I really don't. I'm sure I would be just disgusted. But anybody that's using their platform on a regular basis has probably given them way too much access to everything in their life, talked about way too many things, and posted way too many pictures. They know everything about you, and then they can, they have algorithms that generate more based off of everything they've figured out, right? So now you're using that through their platform as an advertiser. You get access to that, and it's going to allow you to better target your market and say, exactly. I didn't know that my target market and people that were interested in my content were 45-year-old females that, are recently divorced. Maybe that's the thing, right? And so you can, okay, so how do I change my messaging to fit that market? Right. Now you can much better do it.
Totally. Yeah. A frightening amount of information, which you can leverage to your benefit, as creepy as it can be. While the Facebook app is open on your phone, when you're not logged out, it's tracking on your other activities. Mm-hmm. So it's not just what you do on Facebook. It's all the other behaviors through the other apps, through your location, that you walked into a restaurant. It knows you're there. So it can It's geo tracking. It knows where you are,
Yeah.
purchases, all of that data is being collected. And so essentially, when you're building ads and you're targeting, it's demographics, and then interest based, and then events based. And so when you're going through those things, you can really hone in on targeting. But the pixel that we're talking about, and thank you for stopping that and breaking it down, is it'll do the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to go and change a whole bunch of stuff later. It's just show me the 1% closest match to my ideal customer. I'm
Hmm.
really simplifying that down, but at an eventual point, and it'll do that for you, which is incredible. 1% match to the last 100 customers you had over the last 12 months, right? Then that's pretty significant.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's going to make it a lot easier if you can identify who you're. I think that's where a lot of people mess up too in this whole marketing journey is that they don't have an ideal client avatar. They're not building out, and looking at what is the average house size that I work in? What kind of cars are they driving? What kind of income do they have? What kind of,
Totally.
position do they work in? Are they working class people? Are they doctors? Are they lawyers? Is the mom educated but stays at home now, right? You got to start tracking all of that stuff and knowing what it is, and then you will know how to reach them. If you understand who a person
Yeah.
is, you will understand what their habits are and what they do for entertainment, and then you can know where to hit them and market to them, and how to market to them. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot. This is very broad and very specific at the same time, and there's a lot of stuff that we've covered. But
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
I know I know, again, audience, you're like me, and I'm sure Justin is like this too. Just because you learned something doesn't mean you actually went and did it. So we're just going to keep hammering on it until we all actually go do the things we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah. So these fundamental things we're kind of digging deep on, broad and specific at the same time, is like I would look at, because at a certain point you're going to want to run some, more significant campaigns for your business as you grow,
Hmm.
or you're stuck in that survival phase and you're like, I'm tired of this, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make payroll next month. Okay, well, you want to get some control, is you want
Hmm.
to have this mechanism in place. Is I would look at a Facebook business manager and the pixel similar to the fundamentals of having a QuickBooks account. Like I would kind of put it in that
Hmm.
category of your GMB listing, your Google My Business listing, getting yourself up on a Yelp, simple things like that.
Oh,
I would
don't
put
do
that in the
that.
checklist of well, you know what I mean, right? These are the first things that are coming
No,
to
I
my mind.
know.
The
I know.
reason I think of that is Yelp is one of those things in the GMB, right? It's one of the directories that Google's looking at to provide that relevancy, trust, et cetera. But basically, those things when you start up a business, you go through that checklist. They should have that on there for businesses to have Facebook, the Pixel, those types of things, and putting that on your website. So your website that gets the
Hmm.
traffic, from word of mouth, from your existing customers, people that are finding you, those things need to be loaded onto your
Yeah.
website to collect all that data.
Well, and just if you don't have a fancy CRM, I know at one point I had downloaded something and it did. It literally attaches a pixel to the email and it lets you know if the client opened it or not. And so there
Mm,
are other ways to do it without all the fancy software. You can find free stuff, but you're going to have to go do the legwork to make it work. But there are ways to attach a pixel to your emails, and then it at least tells you, hey, the client opened it. They opened it 5 times. They've looked at it. They touched the attachment. It's
Helpful to know
doing
that.
things, yes, and then
Yeah.
you can, oh, hey, I should call this person, right? They've opened it 6 times and looked at it, like, let me drop them a phone call and see if they
Yeah.
have any
That is
questions.
a
So,
really good, like, just quick tactic is like when you have that tracking there and they've opened it 3 times in 22 minutes to just pick up the phone right there. Hey, I was just thinking about you, right? And then
hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's oh, just great
So,
timing. And just a quick tip for people, you don't actually need a full-on CRM, although we're advocating that you should have one. There are Chrome extensions for email tracker that you can just put in there um, that are free,
yeah,
just at bare
your
minimum.
your CRM can be as easy as a spreadsheet, folks. Like, you can open up numbers, you can open up Microsoft Excel, you can start keeping track of all this stuff. It doesn't have to be overly complicated, but again, you're going to outgrow that very quickly if you're trying to move your business along and grow in revenue. I think anything under 500,000 you can probably manage strictly with a spreadsheet program. You get past that and it's going to get very complicated very quickly, and you're going to want something that does it for you and you is more easily searchable. And so a couple $100 a month, find a way to build it into the budget. But there is free stuff out there to get you started and get you playing with it and learning about it and how it works. And so you don't necessarily have to build the metapixel right away. I think another thing we skipped over was you can have a Google My Business even without a physical address, but you can also make your physical address your house. And so Illustrious Hardwoods, when it was open, or before the showroom even existed, I just listed my home address. That's where I was running business out of. I didn't care. My address is all over. People can find me anyways. It was on the contractor registry for my license, right? Like I had to register my business to a location. I had to register the license to a location. If people wanted to find me, they were going to find me anyways. It was all public knowledge. So, hey, here I am. But it made it look like I had a location. And then people were like, oh, this is like a legit business. Like, I'm going to call them, right? They were more interested. They'd be like, hey, do you have a shop? I was like, no, I don't, but I can bring samples to your house. And so there was a way of getting people to think you're bigger than you are, which I think is a great business tactic, right? Like, let's look bigger than we are, but be able to service them in that way still.
And discoverable, and to capture those reviews. Yeah, absolutely. How much time do we have, Kyle? Because I think that
I mean, we're at about our hour, but we can keep digging into it. I'm okay. If people look, for me, the way this has always worked for me is it's on-demand content, and the platforms generally remember where you left off, so you can stop and pick back up at any time. And so I think there's probably some value, and maybe we pick up the pace a little bit here.
Yeah,
and we can try and get through these last couple stages, but I think that we've been really valuable. That, or if you want, I know you have other things to do. Do we want to cut this and we can record film?
No.
We are filming. We can do a part 2, and then I'll just release them week after week, and we can finish up these other business stages in another conversation. I'll let you make the call.
Yeah. Always happy to come back. So if people listen, they got some questions, drop them in Floor Academy in the group, and then we can get on to answer those questions. I love jamming with Kyle, so we end up getting into specific things and jamming on them. But I was feeling like we're probably coming up close to time, and I would want to give somewhat of a linear path if possible, right? Of like, okay, well, what are the stages? And I was marinating on that, and now it's escaping me. But to give
let's do that. We'll do a part 2. So let's wrap this out. Is there anything else that you kind of want to mention for like these first 2 stages, right? This startup and the survival mode. Is there anything else we want to kind of hit on to drive home what you can kind of do at these stages, set up, get into, make work for you?
Yeah, I think I was actually going to go the other way, but yeah, we can wrap and then we'll do a part 2. I was going to try and take it home, but we might have to rush that, right? So in these initial stages, we'd be talking like auctioneers to get that done. So in the first stages of like success to survival to scaling, I think people might have heard this before, but often we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. Is so to give fundamentals that'll take people through both survival and successful, and then just kind of on the other side of that is the general rules that I would give that are not mine. I think it was Clay Collins that came up with like the rule of 5 ones, right? So you want to have one target ICP, right? That Kyle mentioned. You have one offer, one channel. And so even if we don't go through all 5, let's keep that really simple. We can always do that in a part 2. Let's just stick to, because he gets into some other things, which I think the 5th rule of 1 is for 1 year, right? So you're basically, the importance of that is not getting distracted by shiny objects, right? Giving things enough time to figure them out, because that's very often we want results yesterday, and we think it's going to be easier than it is. And often that's what ends up sabotaging success, is we jump ship when we don't get those results. So one target ICP, one channel, one offer, and for a significant amount of time, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. when you're going from startup to survival, you're taking anything you can find, right? You're gonna, I need some baseboards installed. Oh, I don't have anything next week. I'm gonna take that extra couple $100. Like, you're gonna take things that you maybe wouldn't normally do. And I remember it being more like, yes, I'm running a flooring installation company, but I got into some handyman stuff to keep myself busy, and it was not necessarily what I wanted to do. But as I was able to develop more leads and stuff, and as I was able to grow my presence and my branding around town and be recognized, it was like, no, I just do installs for this. And then that kept me busy. And I think that's great advice. Of a lot of times we take on too much. And so you may be somebody that can do carpet and tile and hardwood and vinyl plank, but do you necessarily want to be doing all of those things? Because even shifting your mindset from one week you're doing tile to the next week you're doing hardwood, like being able to hone in on something and do it week after week after week, you become very good and much more efficient at it. And then you're more productive, which means you should be more profitable if you're charging appropriately. So that's great advice, to like find something to hone in on and really focus on it, develop it out before you move on to the next thing. Because if you're always chasing after something, you're never going to get anywhere, right? Ooh, shiny object. Well, it's you're going to keep finding shiny objects, and they're never going to be as shiny as you would like them to be. They're going to be very dull when you get a hold of it, because you constantly are like halfway to it and you're like, nope, new one over here. So I think that's really good advice. We can dig into that some more.
Yeah, we will. And I think the biggest thing, and when we're working with people, and is, this all sounds great. We got into tactical stuff. We would do that. It's time management, right? And prioritizing. So I think one of the biggest things is putting sales first. So sales or marketing, depending on how we're talking about that, but marketing. For the purpose of this conversation, marketing should be one of the highest priority things in the business until you're at the sustainable phase, quite frankly. And so it's often that feast or famine mode that people will end up in, right? So in times where they're not busy and, they got extra time, they can go out and focus on some of these things, and then the schedule fills up, and then they're busy. They're out there actually doing the installs, doing the jobs, especially in the early days, right? They don't have a crew that's out there, where they're in the office and able to focus on that. Having to figure out how to dedicate, whether it's 2 times a week, whether it's just once a week that you're going to dedicate 3 hours to building this mechanism to gain control of what essentially becomes cash flow, being the life of your business. How are you going to be able to impact that, and have a reasonable degree of control, cannot be understated into probably the most important part of all of this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Being able to have dedicating the time, which is what we all need to do. We all need to have better time management. I know it's easy to get caught up and be, I was on the field 10 hours. Great. If you said you were going to do marketing for 2 hours when you got home that day, you better sit down and do the marketing for 2 hours. You better sit down and do your books for the hour the next day. You better go follow up with the leads the day after that. Finding a way to keep a consistent schedule and really, I think the hardest part is saying like, I'm behind in the field. You got to learn how to bid better. And you know that there's always going to be something that comes up. No project has ever gone smooth for you. And I think we always try and bid them as if like, I should take 5 days, because that's what the numbers say. There's going to be a change order. The subfloor is not going to be flat. There's going to be bowed studs when you're doing the shower walls, and it's going to take you extra time to, make them flat, and it's going to add half a day. Build it in to begin with into your schedule. Totally. And then you will, if you can get yourself to say, I only work 8 hours a day, going home and doing the extra hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of work because you're the business owner isn't going to be as big of a deal, because you're constantly playing catch up to keep your schedule and working 12 or 14 hours in the field. And then you come home and you're exhausted and you're like, I just don't have it in me. So setting those boundaries so that you actually have time and the energy to do the extra stuff after the fact is what's really going to make a difference.
Yeah, in these early stages, when somebody's in survival, those are key for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and then buying back some of your time. Yeah.
Correct. All right.
Man.
Where can people find you, Justin?
So you can find me at justinxshaw.com. There's a free training on there, YouTube videos. You can also find us on YouTube by just searching for Driven for Growth. And every week I drop episodes on there with free training. So if you want to jump into that, you can.
Awesome. All right, we got a couple more words, folks. Listeners, it's nearing that time again. Time to remind you that the International Surface event is returning to Las Vegas January 28th through 30th, 2025. So mark your calendars now. Floor Academy podcast listeners will have the opportunity to register for free once registration opens in September using the promo code Kyle. Whether you're an installer, retailer, distributor, or serve in another capacity within our industry, attending TICE is a solid resource to expand your knowledge and networking base. You can also learn about the newest and industry-leading products coming to market. Stay up to date with the International Surfaces event page on Facebook or visit intlsurfaceevent.com. Ardex, providing innovative solutions for the construction industry for 75 years. From our game-changing tile and stone installation products to our easy-to-install TLT shower systems, we've got you covered. Our industry-leading moisture control products like Ardex VB100 ensure a solid foundation for our best-in-class lineup of self-leveling underlayments and subfloor preparation products like Ardex Feather Finish and Ardex Feather Finish XF. At Ardex, we are building tomorrow. To learn more, visit www.ardexamericas.com today. Thank you again, folks, for listening. Truly appreciate it. Make sure you check out flooracademypod.com. We've got resources over there for you to help you figure out what you should be charging, tracking your tools. We've got our, why can I never remember the name of it? We've got our job costing worksheet over there. And of course, make sure you go learn about our mastermind groups. Talked about those at the top of the show. If you'd like to help support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/Floor Academy. I am blanking all over the place. Truly appreciate you listening and let a friend know. I've got my budget for advertising is currently $0, and so leaving a 5-star review would go a really long way in helping people be able to find the show. If you're enjoying it, I would hope you'd want others to be able to enjoy it and grow their businesses as well. And let a friend know. Let the guy in line or the gal in line at the supply house know that you're listening to this show and what it's doing for your business. It will grow our audience, which will give you more people to interact with on the Facebook group. So thank you again, Justin, for joining us. And we will set up part 2 and get that recorded so everyone can hear it. Thank you very much. And we will catch you all
Sound good.
next week.